Hello there, Outliers. Nyama Shang here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. We are here for an Outliers Edge Masterclass where we are going to be focusing on helping you up level your outlier. What you're going to find in the upcoming sessions here is that we're going to create time to bring you some of the outliers that we're finding out in the world who are doing incredible things. They'll be entrepreneurs. They're all entrepreneurial minded in the sense that they are creating a vision of a world that doesn't exist yet, right? Whether they're building out their business, they're finding out different ways to impact the hearts and minds of people, coming up with cures to some of the ailments that we're experiencing, and just all around just doing independently interesting things, right? And so look out. We'll have our master classes that will take place, and each of these master classes are really designed to have a conversation with some outliers out in the world who are really both trailblazing and shaping the world around them. And in those conversations, we'll be looking at various components that are specific to how they see the world and how they navigate it. And we'll be doing this in a way that ends up really being something that you can walk around with various insights to apply to your world. Now, this is some of the important things around the outliers ed space. One of the things that we look at here is like we're not here to teach you anything. I think it's really like important. Like you will learn, but we're not here to teach you. And how do we make that distinction work? The thing about it here is that we often find that for the outliers out there, the real thing is to help remove the barriers that are keeping you from being fully unleashed and expressed out in the world, as well as to help you see with different perspectives how you can apply the skill sets that you already have in new ways, or how you can apply your resources or your resourcefulness to go and acquire the new skills that are necessary. And so we find in this space here that it's not about we don't need to train you on things here. That's I have a belief that that is me putting you into my box, right? Instead, what we're here to do is unleash you. And to do that, we take a different approach with each of these master classes that come forth. It's still going to be us live. We're going to be coming in with various people, and we're going to be sharing their we take it on different topics and having them express how they navigate through it themselves. And each time we do this, we're sharing it in a way that gives you the time and space and perspective to be able to apply it back to yourself. All right. That's the key. That's the way that we choose to grow in our space. And I find that with outliers, it's not about telling them what to do. It's actually about creating a space for you to have the time to look at what you're doing differently and to see that come up in a new light, in a new way. And so we're going to have these masterclass sessions here. Each of them are going to be focusing on up leveling your outlier. And what we like to do is that today's session is going to be me, but we're going to be bringing in on other guests in the future from all over. And if you're here, just put in the chat. Just let us know where you are, where you're watching this right now. Go ahead and put that into the comments, whether you're watching this live or in the replay. We want to know where our outlier community is. Right, we call it the outlier world. So where our outlier world is at right now. All right. So today, for today's Upload Your Outlier, I want to start off with grounding us in the what I call the frictions of being an outlier and the frictions of up leveling as an outlier. What does that mean? So what I found is that when it comes to being an outlier, there are certain challenges that we face that are distinct or at least have a different, I would say, a different flavor to them than other people that are trying to grow. And part of the underlying component of it all is that what I really thought about this year as an like growing as an outlier can be, or at least can feel really dangerous. Why is that? And the reason for that here is because if you're an outlier, it compared to the rest of the people, let's say the average I'm trying to find a way to say it in a way that isn't disparaging. So like I'm like the normies in my mind is what I'm really thinking. But compared to the average of your group, it might be that you're already sticking out. You're already doing something that's beyond what they are. You're already standing out. Let's put it that way. You're already standing out as it is. And so the idea of growing even more, creating even more success, being able to bring in the types of problems that you have that that most people would they'd be like, I wish I had your problem, right? all those things like come out and they threaten something. And I think what it threatens is your state of belonging, your state of identity within that space. And this plays out from a relationship standpoint. This plays out from an execution standpoint. It also plays out from a financial standpoint, right? And what we want to do here with Outliers Edge is to make sure that we are removing the various barriers or the various places of friction that are keeping you keeping you in the same place, as opposed to letting you just really be out in the world. Now, this first distinction here is what we'll call the outlier to outsider distinction. And that really comes out to the component of you're already so different from everyone else. You're already getting results in a different way, or there's something rare about the way that you've done things. And if you go, there's a feeling that feels like if you go any further than this, you'll stretch it beyond what the group can handle, and you'll be left on your own. Right now, you've been able to gain a certain level of acceptance, or a certain level, yeah, let's just a certain level of acceptance and tolerance. But like, if you keep pushing beyond it, like it might be beyond where they can go. And it's not just made up. You've seen it. You've seen examples of this. You talk about like, going extra hard on something, and people are like, "Yo, just like chill." It's like it's not that serious. Or you bring in an approach or a way of getting things done, and people are like, "Yo, that's just too much. Like you don't need to be extra about it." Right? Or you find yourself surrounded by a group of people where their goals are, like, hey, I just want to make like an extra 5K a month, and you're like, wow, I'm trying to build something really really big here, and I don't know how to identify with this. Right? This happens in different ways for different people, but the key thing is it's predicated on the place that we have found some level of belonging, or at least acceptance. I think that there is a difference there. We found some level of acceptance within a group of people, and it feels scary to really let them know and see like what we're really capable of, because if we go that next step, then we might actually lose what we have found right now. We might lose the safety of what we have right now. I know this for myself, and as we go through the different frictions, I will speak candidly and be honest around my experience of it as well. So this last few years, I found myself in a place where uh, I had refound a community that worked for me. It was a community that challenged me, that helped me grow into the Niyama that you see right now. However, I recognized that like my goals that I wanted to get done were different than what the community had. But what I in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to find another space that where someone can hold me like this. I'm not going to find another space where someone's going to challenge my thinking. I'm not going to find another space like this. So even though it's not the perfect space for me, and it may not even be the right space for me anymore, I'm going to stay here and make sure that I'm going to stay here. And what resulted as a result of that is that even though I was paying to be a part of this group, I was only bringing in problems that I thought that the group can handle. How many of you know about that? The element of kind of testing things out, seeing what can that space, what can that group, what can that environment handle of you, and then you bringing yourself up into that level, but not beyond. Right? That there is where the outlier to outsider distinction shows up, where it's like I know that I want to go beyond this, but I think at this point, this is as far as we can take it. And so I it wasn't until I was able to see that distinction for myself, and honestly just know that I could create belonging outside of that space. That it wasn't the space that made me feel comfortable. It was actually certain individuals within it, and that what I needed was beyond what that space could offer. It wasn't until that happened that I was able to start actually being expressed back out in the world and creating it in alignment with me. So I want to ask you right now, just take some time, think about like the spaces you're in, the environments you're in, the groups that you're a part of, and look at it for yourself and say like, all right, in which ways am I holding myself back in order to make sure that I don't go beyond what this group would allow? All right. All right. So what we're gonna the next thing I'm gonna look at here is the friction of the well-meaning sabotage, right? The well-meaning sabotage, and that here comes from like our friends and family unconsciously holding us down, not out of cruelty, but out of discomfort, all right? And it's out of love, if I'm really gonna say it. So a lot of times, you might have heard it called there are different phenomenons that describe this. They might call it like the tall poppy syndrome, or getting too big for your britches, or thinking that you're too good for us now, right? There are various ways that people bring up uh, opportunities to, rather than uplift you even further, to keep you where you are. And I feel like up leveling as an outlier, like we run into this element where it's like the people around us want to keep us where we are, but they want to do it to keep us safe and them safe. And this is something I think is important because I have a number of clients who have brought up just like frustrations that they've had with family and friends and things there, and it's like they're doing the best that they can based on what they know, but they may not be an outlier, at least not in the way that you are, right? And as such, the things that you do might feel dangerous for them. I mean, like, let's think about, for any of you that are entrepreneurs out there, the number, like, look, I come from a family where, like, it was go get a profession, become a doctor, become a lawyer. I was on the actuarial path, where they were like, okay, an actuary is a profession, you're good there. But the thought of becoming an entrepreneur was very scary for them. And so there's an element of that. There's a friction that we oftentimes face as outliers when we're about to do something different, be one of the first, one of the only, or one of a kind in what we're doing, at least relative to the rest of our world, where it causes us to have to. There's additional barriers to just making that nice and smooth. So we look for that. Like, I want to make sure I'm stating this here. My invitation is to look for yourself and say, like, where in your world, it might be a person. So I'm going to say, who in your world is bringing their well-meaning attitude, but it's actually sabotaging you at the same time. It's keeping you where you are. All right. And then, like, what I found there is to make sure that that person is going to be who they are. That person, like, and they have their experiences, and they're bringing it to you with love, to help you out from there. But the key here for me, I found, is like being able to internally make sure that I've addressed my discomfort with letting that person down, or letting that person's vision of who they think I am down, in order to get to the next places. Right. That includes, like, thinking about my parents, thinking about various friends that I have and different groups that I have. So my invitation for you on this here is to look at if you're looking at that friction and you find it a well-meaning sabotage to be a problem, to really ask yourself, like, who right now am I? Whose voice am I hearing? Who am I trying to please in this moment? And work through being able to free yourself from that. And that might involve actually having an external conversation. But a lot of times it's about our reception to how they're going to respond, and they'll respond how they respond. Let's keep it going here. So, like, as this goes on, I'll probably bring in one or two more for today, and then we'll bring in some other ways of looking about this into the future, right? And as we go on here, like, let us know, like, what's the friction for you? What's the thing that keeps you at your level? Let me make sure I take some time here to describe what a level is really quickly before we go back into the rest of this. So there's a distinction I have around playing at a higher level versus get improving. And while they might seem like the same, they're actually two different things. So you'll oftentimes see me do it kind of directionally, but when you're playing at a higher level, you're elevating the things that everything that you're doing is coming from a different role. It could be the same underlying activity that is happening at a distinction that is of a higher level of mastery or leadership. When we talk about improving or getting better or moving forward, that's actually more about staying in the role that you're in and getting better at it. Right. So that's a level of becoming more efficient, more effective at what it is that you're doing. Whereas when we're talking about up level, the things that you're doing are fundamentally changing. If it helps them look at this here, think about this like a job or promotion, right? When you get a promotion, you're oftentimes looking to take on additional responsibility. You're looking to you might be spending the same number of hours inside of a role, and you might still be still contributing toward the same end goal, but since you've gotten a promotion now, instead of you being the first one that's doing everything, perhaps you're overseeing one person or you're overseeing multiple people, so on and so forth. But you're still ultimately moving the same project or the same thing forward, right? That's a distinction that we have when it comes to up leveling versus moving forward or getting things done. I want to make sure that as we continue here talking about the frictions here in this masterclass, that, like, we get to that, we understand that difference here. This is a lot of times I love leveling, y'all. Let me level with you. But I love up leveling because a lot of times the issues that I'm trying to solve by trying to, like, move forward or get to a specific result become, like, irrelevant or so much easier to solve when I choose to level myself up. I'll give you an example of this right now. This is happening. One of the things that's happening in real time. So I have been looking to build out more of the community space to be able to show up more frequently and consistently inside of the Outliers Edge world and community. And I've been spending a lot of time trying to understand like how I'm going to get all the programming together, how we're going to get all these different moving parts together. And there's been a lot of saying how like a lot of thought being put into both how to get it done and a lot of time being used to go and spend it to bring it out to life. And it occurred to me the other day that I'm like, no matter what I do, I can only really put in, let's say, 40 hours a week, right? Like there's more than that, but just for conversational purposes, me on my best day will still just put in like 40 hours a week. And I wonder what would happen if I kept growing beyond that. What would happen I uh, if I was able to get other people to also come and support, you know? Um, it's something here that feels that I realize like, oh, the actual up level move is not for me to get better at doing the task. It's actually for me to bring on additional people to come and support. And that feels really good. That feels really good. And so I want to just like I want to bring it at in as a bit of a distinction as we go through and as we look through things here. I want to just say like thank you all for putting your comments into the chat. We have Ans Rastogi. Like it's good to see you again here in this space here. I remember you from one of our first live streams that we had, and so but as we go through here, I'm glad you let us know you're around. Share with us what are some of the insights that you're coming up with. What are some of the things that you're creating right now as an outlier that are keeping you holding you back or keeping you moving, right? Actually, let's not even go with the holding back. Like, what are you excited to create? Let's create together, and then we'll build from there. And then what I'm also going to put here is as we come in here is like while we're talking about each of these frictions and how to up level as an outlier, it's one thing for us to like discuss it inside of this space, and hopefully in this conversation you're getting some time to see your world and see it from a different perspective and be like, oh, like this might be what's at play. But if you actually want to go and practice the whole upload leveling journey, we're going to invite you to come and join us inside of the Outliers Edge world, which is on School. You go to school.com/outlier. We meet on a regular basis. We've created containers to help you practice and actually get into your nervous system the differences of how you show up in the world so you can be unapologetic and unleashed on a regular basis. So you can go to school.com/slash outlier, and you can come and join us there to come and practice your outlier. I'll put that into the comments right now, so you can just go ahead and click it if it's of alignment. All right. All right. So let's continue on here with the next friction. All right. The next friction that we have here, and this is probably the last one for today. I want to play. I want to play a little bit overall, but um, the next friction we're going to bring in right now. I like this one. It's the competence to incompetence reset. The competence to incompetence reset. This one I think is a huge, a huge one that I've been facing, and it shows up a lot for us as actuaries. I talked about my actuarial story a bit earlier, but as outliers here. So the competence to incompetence reset. That's going from being from being an acceptable high performer, like performing really high and being like, oh, I have a lot of competence. I'm really good at this, to having to now step into a new level and take on new responsibilities, new tasks, new ways of thinking, new ways of being, like new ways that people relate to you, and realize that like I'm not necessarily sure how this is going, how to do this. Like, and now you end up in a place where you've gone from being a high performer to kind of being messy all over again, and that's an ego hit. That's an ego hit, honestly, to take that on and having to play again as a beginner, even though you are playing higher than you were before. And I also think that there's a part of this where not only is it an ego hit, there's a level of pressure, right? Where it's like, hey, look, I've stepped into this, and I want to make sure that I'm represented properly. And there's a way that you look at yourself, that you know yourself to be, that now like brings this like cognitive dissonance, making this real here for you all. It's so interesting, and part of why I know I need to speak to these frictions, and our job here at Outliers is just to keep removing the frictions. Like we don't have anything to teach you. We're here to just like unleash you. All right, that's really it. Unleash and up level. So what's the reason I say that is that what's interesting about it is that these things keep showing up, but they look different each time. All right. So let's talk a little bit right now about the competency and competence reset. And I'll join in and show come from my place. So right now, I think that the one of the most visible places is actually me having these live stream discussions. And what had happened was that I had been doing a lot of things from a pre-recorded basis with my podcast, and I had hundreds of people come in. I'll make some live streams about that in the future, and some different master classes about like what I learned from like releasing 400 episodes in 18 months. And I had this space that was I was interacting with people on a regular basis, and I was able to then get the recordings out in the world in a more curated way, and just show up for that. And then I decided I wanted to go live streaming. And what ended up happening with the live stream is that it put me back into the center. All right. I like my thought leadership started to show up again, as opposed to really mining through and navigating the conversation to elevate and platform other people, which I still love to do. But this platform changed, and it's like in where the focus was. And so not only that, but I, as much as I try to prepare and get things done in events, like my style is just to kind of show up and work with what's here. The way I describe it is like, if you're looking to converge to a specific answer, like I've done the math, I can do the math, we can get that done. I'm good at it. But the real special thing that happens is that we allow for new things to emerge inside of our space. Right. And so my overall approach to things is very emergent. Now, the problem for me, the problem for me was that in the spaces I had been curating beforehand and with my clients and such, I was able to come in a place of actually like being in a place of um, high confidence. Like I knew what I was doing. It was my environment, and then coming on and hitting live. Like the big question in my head was like, are they going to think I'm naive? All right. Am I going to think are they going to think I'm naive? Because I've gotten so good at being in conversation and responding with people, that if I have to come off and allow my thoughts to unpack themselves in real time or in front of other people, that skill I hadn't been building. And then it was like, I was like, this is going to get messy. Thankfully, I was able to transcend that by jumping into what we call the 10K live game. And so I ended up starting this whole journey of live streaming by making a commitment to accumulating 10,000 minutes of live streaming in 6 weeks. I didn't get there. I got to about 811, something like that. Uh, but uh, but it got me in the game. And what ended up happening was that it changed and this is something that you can use. So if you find yourself in this competence to incompetence reset, the key that I found with this is to change the framing, change what you're aiming to do. So initially, I came in here and I was like, I need to come off and be seen as a competent authority on this here, while still also being able to do it in my own way. And that was leading to some dissonance in terms of like, how do I like my way is just to show up and like let's see what happens. And I'm good at responding to people, but now there's no one to respond to. How do I navigate that? And by playing the 10K live game, what ended up happening is that it no longer became about how do I go and demonstrate to people through the live stream and how awesome I am, right? And it doesn't feel great to say it, but like that's that's what I was trying to get done. And it shifted the game to like, am I going to be able to get to 10,000 minutes in the next 6 months, 6 weeks? So what would I need to do to go and get that happen? So just so you know, that's about 167 hours of live streaming in 6 weeks. So I'm like, so all of a sudden that changed the game. And what I realized is like I couldn't be precious about things. I couldn't worry about how polished I was or how premium it's coming off, because I had 167 hours to fill 10,000 minutes to fill within 6 weeks. And without like, I just needed to hit record. I just needed to hit record and come talk. And sometimes what I would say would stick, and sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it'd be great, and sometimes it wouldn't be. But that was actually what ended up helping me like make the change and make a move into a different way of operating, right? Into this world of live streaming. So like now, I think we've hit about 1,000 minutes, maybe. I think we're at 1,100 to 1,200 minutes of live streaming since we took this on about 3 months ago, and it's a different game. We found ways to improve our just found different things. I mean, all right, here goes a little something that I think is gonna be funny. I like to timestamp these things because it is funny, and it's gonna be really, really great to come back to this years from now and be like, oh man, this guy did not know what he was doing, and look how much he was able to get done. Right? I love that element. And so it wasn't until yesterday that I realized I can schedule these calls in events. And it's one of the reasons why like we're having this conversation right now, because yesterday I was like, oh, let me schedule a masterclass and put it out there early in advance, and see what happens if I do that. And that was my first time doing that. And today I was in the middle of something, and normally I would just go and say like I'm going to show up and create my live stream when something hits me and I'm hit with inspiration, and I'll just go ahead and hit live. I like to come in every day at a certain time, but I actually had not done that. You know, truth be told, you might be listening to the time when we have regularly, I'm showing up live, but like it was really, really hard for the last 3 months for me to show up with any kind of real consistency other than like every day I would do something. But because I'm still allowing myself to play a version of this 10K live game, it keeps me here, which allows me to get better each time. And this time around, and it also not only gets better each time on my own, but I'm out in the world trying to find ways to not be messy. If I'm being honest about you, right? Like I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm putting in the time. How do I get more from this? How do I like like how's this supposed to go? And the realization was like, all right, I'm gonna play with scheduling this call in advance. The reason I did that is I actually wanted to leave a comment and be able to pin the comment earlier. Like my friend had told me like this is what to do, and this is how he was scheduling and managing his live streams. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm gonna make that improvement and test it out. Well, the thing that I did not expect was that at 5 minutes before this thing went off, I looked down on my phone and said, "You have a live stream starting in 5 minutes," and I didn't expect the ancillary benefit of like knowing that like, oh, I need to show up. I said I was going to show up, and now I need to show up. And that was one of those things that like because I've allowed myself to be in that place of like, all right, like I have to reset myself from high level competence to like I'm developing something new at this new level. Like I got this extra bonus of realizing that, oh, the key for me is not to get it right and perfect beforehand, but actually to just to schedule it and then fulfill. Um, to declare and fulfill is what I heard. Rather than plan and manage, it's to declare and fulfill. And what happens is and I didn't realize I was stepping into that, right? So you're seeing this in messiness in here, and I think that the keys that I found to navigating the messy time is just to recognize it's going to be messy. One, right, and it's sometimes it's hard. Like honestly, I didn't come into this live stream space thinking that like I was allowed to be messy, right? I had to do the second thing I recommend, which is to change the framing, change the game that you're playing. So rather than coming out here and saying I need to go make a live stream so I can go get clients, it was like I'm just going to get live stream and I'm going to get 10,000 minutes. Not like, and then after I set the goal of 10,000 minutes, I'm like, well, then I have to show up when I'm not ready, and that became like it became a feature rather than a bug, right? Meaning that like the way to get to 10,000 minutes was to just show up. And then I had to learn how to get really good with like what it meant to just show up. And so we're about 30 minutes into this conversation in here, and I'm going to let you in on another thing. I was used to coming into this space when I felt the inspiration and showing up from there. This time around, I got the notification about 5 minutes beforehand, and I was in the middle of something. I was like, I gotta go make a transition here. So I came in, and like it had just struck at the top of the hour, and so I went and I hit live, but I had no plan at the time. I had no plan coming into this conversation. I just knew what it was called, and I knew I was going to show up for it. In my mind, I was like, this might be 2 minutes. It ended up being, we're a half hour into this right now. And what ended up showing up was a version of me that has honestly sounds far more polished and aligned than what might actually have been going on inside of me when I was coming through. I was like, all right, we're gonna go through the frictions. Like that's what we're gonna do. I had some notes on that and I just pulled it up and be like, that's what we've been doing in this session here. I like to show those kinds of things again because I'm not here to teach. Right? I'm here for us to have an experience together, an experience that helps like change the way that you think, open up new doors and new possibilities and beyond. Right? And so like one of the reveal, quote unquote, here is that like I'm like this was still me and my messiness. As much as it might have sounded like something else was taking place, and as organized as it had come across in the end, this is still me just showing up, still making it up, still being real and present in the moment. And I want to offer that not as a because I'll listen to this and I'll be like, oh, as much as I said I was polished, I wasn't, right? So like it's not about that. But what I want to offer is this component of one, you might already be ready. Two, you on your messy day might still be so much like come across so much better than you think. Three, like, and this is something that I'm in the process of learning or relearning right now, is that like for the people out there where your message, your mission, and everything, your meaning, the things that you do, your purpose is actually important for. Like they're not looking to have it delivered in the perfect way. They're looking to just have it delivered. They just want to get it. And I think that like that's something that has been uh I've been realizing that like people don't care how messy I am. Maybe it's enough for someone who's not that interested right now to not stay on for that long. And there's more that we'll do to get higher views and replays and up purpose and all that stuff. Sure. But the reality is just by showing up, we get a chance to do something. We get a chance to make an impact. We get a chance to grow ourselves. We get a chance to share something with others. And there's beauty in the messiness. There's beauty in the messiness. So I think I want to go ahead and wrap today's masterclass with that. I'm going to invite you to go and share in the comments and or at like what's something that you've taken up. What's something that has um, let's see here. Let's make this more specific. So I would love to know about any insights that you have, but I want to go and play. Like we talked about a couple different frictions here today. I would like you to just put into the comments like what's the friction that feels like it's most real or most present for you right now. Right? We had the outlier to outsider distinction where it's like the risk of the difference between being an outlier and just being part of the group but different, and then being an outsider, which is completely separate. You know, playing in a different world, different strategy, and leveling up, being able to push you over that line. Right? We talked about that. We talked about the well-meaning sabotage problem, where your friends and family unconsciously hold you down, not out of cruelty, but out of like their discomfort or love for you. And they accidentally cut you down as they're trying to raise you up. And you know, how we navigate without that. So I'd be curious about if that was your biggest friction that showed up for you, or it might be the competence to incompetence reset, where we went from being like the acceptable high performer to like being messy all again, messing up again, and coming in more like as a beginner once again as you go through the process of leveling up. So you're working toward the same goal, but because you stepped up the level, you have to worry about like the ego hit, the dissonance being of who you see yourself being and how you've been, and also just like the visibility of being in a place where you're not as good as what you were doing beforehand. We also talked here today about the difference between leveling up and moving forward. And that distinction is one of the key distinctions in this space here, where we're looking at leveling up being a way that you take on additional roles, responsibilities, who you are being, and what you're asked to do has fundamentally changed. Whereas moving forward is being able to do, in our, at least as we define it, is being able to do more what you've been doing with more efficiency, more effectiveness, more return from that investment. Whether it's a time return in terms of you get it done faster, you know, a quality return into like in that you're able to get more for each minute or more impact as a result of it. Those are things that are moving forward. But when we are leveling up, we're looking at the things that fundamentally change how you do things and who you are being as it's getting done. So let us know in the comments, like which one of those things really resonated with you. And if you're looking to get one of those frictions and work through those frictions and have a chance to practice being all of your outlier and incorporate it into your life, your business, the impact that you're making out in the world, then we invite you to come and join us inside of the Outliers Edge world. That's through our school community, which you can go to school.com/outlier. It's free to join. We'd love to have you in there. I hold, and as a thank you to you, it's not just a thank you. I believe in you. I believe in you. And if you're taking the time to watch this and listen to this here, like I know that you're up to something, because this message doesn't resonate with everyone. And if it resonates with you, like my thing is, I want you to be so successful. So you can come and join us for free, right? And get started with us for free. Go to school.com/outlier. And when you come in, I give each person what we call a level up launch. And that's to make sure that we spend time getting to know you, getting to know where you currently are and where you're like looking to what your next level would be so that we can find that distinction for you between moving forward and leveling up and how you can leverage the rest of the Outliers Edge world to help you be successful with that. All right. So go in there, start your level up launch by going to school.com/outlier. All right. I look forward to seeing the like your comments and seeing how you grow with this here. We'll be back again with another masterclass soon. We'll be looking to do this on a daily basis. I'm going to be spending some time to make that happen on a more recurrent basis. All right. Until then, and next time you come in, bring a friend, bring someone else, bring another outlier, another exceptional person, so we can cross-pollinate and up level. That's what we do here. All right. At the end of the day, I want to say this to you here. Until the next time we talk, be you on purpose. Journey on.